Hello, good evening, and welcome back. So, hopefully, everybody who wants a vaccine will receive one as soon as possible, and we can all get our lives back pretty sharpish as well. All being well, given that that is actually the reason that they're holding out on us at the moment. And again, it all comes down to consent, that if you want something injected into your body, then you should have the free right to do so, and nobody should have the power to force you to have something injected into you that you don't want injected. And I'm completely consistent in this when it comes to drug laws as well. It's your choice. You can ingest or inject whatever you wish. Of course, there are concerns that what if we don't produce enough vaccinations, that we can't keep up to target as best we wish, and the longer that we take, the more people are going to die. Okay. But then, of course, there are other thoughts. Well, maybe we should sell some out or gift some out to the EU because they're turning to Russia now, so we should help out the European Union. But of course, there's been quite a backlash against that. So, hang on, what's this? Well, there's an illegal migrants vaccine amnesty. So up to 1.3 million illegal migrants, as in almost 2% of the entire population, are urged to register with a GP for a COVID-19 jab in drive for herd immunity, and they'll face no action from the Home Office. So the idea of herd immunity, just as a quick recap, because I think we skip over it too much, is to say that some people can't be protected against a disease, or a virus, an infection, whatever it might be. In which case, to protect those people, let's ensure that as many other people as possible are protected against the disease, so that it cannot spread to the vulnerable person. It's like the virus keeps trying to find a new path, as in through people, but it keeps being met with brick walls, and it can't make any progress, in which case it can never find itself to that vulnerable person. Fair enough. Obviously, that vulnerable person, if they can, then they're going to have their own protection from the virus as well, in which case they're not fussed about herd immunity. It's just the other vulnerable people, of course. Right. But who are the vulnerable people? Well, the vulnerable people to the goof are the old people, of course. So, right. Okay, those in the high-risk groups and with the other underlying health conditions. Okay. And seeing as this is such a national pandemic, then they're the people that we're trying to protect first. Fair enough. Seeing as the consequences of national lockdowns are so severe as well, we want to end that as soon as possible. Okay. In which case, herd immunity doesn't really seem necessary to me, because like for herd immunity, you're talking about a large percentage, as in a overwhelming majority of people have to be protected against this disease. Like Fauci's raised his number as well into the mid-80s, so then saying 85% of the population would have to be inoculated against the disease in order to achieve herd immunity. That is not in accordance with once the over 50s are done, we can open back up. Of course it isn't, because I know we're an aging population, but thankfully, more than 15% of the population are under 50 years of age, which is just as well. Otherwise, we wouldn't still have a country. So the idea of going for herd immunity now that we know about the virus and who it affects most, is laughable. It's really not necessary at all. It's not going to happen. I mean, sure, it might at some point, but by then, the restrictions should have been lifted a long time ago, in which case the herd immunity side of things doesn't really matter. And again, different mutations, it's endemic, treat it like flu. At the end of the day, that's it, and it really is that straightforward. You get an annual jab if you want one. Straightforward. Job done. So, then saying, well, let's vaccinate the illegal immigrants. Oh, but it's for herd immunity, so we're not doing it out of their sake. No, it's to try and win around people who are against giving things to illegal immigrants. And saying, oh yeah, but we need them vaccinated for your sake. Except you don't. The only reason to start vaccinating illegal migrants, then, would be if they were more than 15% of the population, going by Fauci's herd immunity number, which, I mean, sure, they could be higher than 1.3 million if you go at estimates from places like Tesco and Asda that are actually feeding the nation. Then it could well be higher, but it's not 15% of the population, and that's what matters. So then you might say, yeah, but it's in the particular high-risk areas that you need more people vaccinated. But again, that doesn't really hold water because it averages out, and you can't really target areas like that, unless you're saying put all the vulnerable people into one small area in the UK and keep that protected. Is that it now? It's a local quarantine, but people are being moved there. Just to that camp. That's not going to go down well. I know Germany are trying it again, but no. So, put simply, no, the idea for the herd immunity, and that's why vaccinating illegal immigrants just isn't true. It just doesn't hold water. But now that we know that, you might be thinking, well, then what is the actual reason? And maybe that the idea isn't for amnesty, but it is actually to try and trick them. And it's like, oh no, but then the illegal immigrants won't trust the British government. It's like, well, hey, us legal citizens don't trust the government either, so join the club. And maybe then you wouldn't be so willing to join in the future. And then you might say, oh, well, it's inhumane to just let these people die and suffer from a preventable disease. And you go, well, not really. No, because we can't help everyone in the world, and therefore we've got to prioritise. And we're a nation state, so that's how we're going to prioritise. If you want a nation state that doesn't prioritise its own nation, find a different nation. Or return to your own. But, moving on, what other issues could there be? Well, let's say they're undocumented, as in they don't have any documentation, as in they got no proof of identification. So they're saying they're not going to jump the queue, but how would you know? What are they going to say? That, oh, I'm definitely over 70, just like you've seen them trying to get into schools when they're in their late 20s. That, no, you can't trust them on that. Oh, if they've got underlying health conditions. Again, no documentation. How do you know? You don't. So how's this going to work? Or you just see someone and go, you look old. Okay, sure. But again, not jumping the queue is not holding water at all. So then there's another thought, which could be, okay, maybe you can't send them back to their country because they're undocumented, they have no documentation, you don't know where they're from. Okay, in which case you should be enforcing the border more so that they don't get here in the first place. If there are people who have overstayed visas, then you know where they've come from. But if they are literally undocumented, then that certainly does put you in a difficult position. Your best bet would be for them to know where they're from, and so when you say, okay, off you go, our territory ends here, now you're free, that would just be using as an example to prevent other migrants, because it wouldn't be fair to push them onto another country, so it would just have to be into an international area, but that's all waters for 100 miles away. So if you want to talk inhumane, then that certainly is. But, okay, right, back to the topic in hand. There might be another reason for it to be done. And this is put forward by Alp Mehmet of Migration Watch UK, who's saying that it would be short-sighted and a wasted opportunity if the government does not now keep thorough records of how many illegal immigrants come forward. That would be absolutely batty. As a Pew Research estimated between 800,000 and 1.2 million in 2017, and Oxford University thought that studies done since 2001 mean that now we're looking at somewhere between 120,000 and 1.3 million. Huge discrepancy. But the point is that maybe this is then a drive in order to see how many illegal immigrants are here. One of the worst things about it for me, personally though, is that of course the amount of money that's being pumped into this as well, which means the amount of resources being transferred from somewhere useful in order to be focused on this. That's what I mean. When it's money, it's resources reallocated, because it's scarcity at the end of the day. And that's what it means. So what do I mean by that? Well, they're going to hard to reach groups. So then they're going to be advertising. There are going to be billboards. And of course, as always, there are going to have to be translators. And you can guess which translators are in high demand. I mean, bloody hell, if you want job security in the UK, then learn a Middle Eastern language and work for the NHS. Job done. Pick up Urdu or Arabic or Punjabi. And you'll be set for life, it seems. So that's what really gets my goat. That you would understand if there is somebody who is an illegal immigrant who has made their way all the way to England. That means that they have rejected offerings from other countries along the way, which would mean they are so grateful for the respite once they get to the UK that they are going to do their best to integrate. They might be incredibly apologetic about, jumping the queue and that they couldn't help it for whatever reason because they are actually a refugee and they picked out the UK for whatever reason. It's their favourite. That would be because the Britain culture is something that they want, which means they would have some understanding of the country, which means they would also have some understanding of the language, and they would do everything they can in order to become a British citizen and become at one with the culture in order to try and win over an inevitable court case. And that's the only kind of illegal immigrant that I'm remotely interested in. And that kind of illegal immigrant does not need those translation services. So, yes, by the very process, you can filter out the undesirables, shall we say, and filter towards the ones that you'd actually have a case to accept, even if you then reject it. But that's it for me. So let me know what you guys think down below of why this is being done. Because as I explained, it's not herd immunity, which is the stated reason. So then the safety for everybody else. Is it because it's just more people? But again, why are they diverting the resources? Is it then just white guilt, which is the classic response, but they now at least feel too ashamed to acknowledge that, which is progress? Whatever your thoughts are, I'm very intrigued to know what your guys' take is on this, so let me know down below. And as always, until next time, have a good one.